Luigi's Mansion is an absolute classic. For me, it wasn't just a launch title, it was the only title I had for about 6 months until Super Mario Sunshine and Star Fox Adventures came out. It's been about 24 years since I've really sat down with it, and I've got the itch to replay it properly as an adult. But I've got a bit of a problem. I genuinely don't know which version to play. We've got two solid options: the 2001 original on GameCube via the legendary Dolphin emulator, or the 2018 3DS remake on the relatively new Azarha emulator. Deciding between these two has kept me up for nights. It's reached a point where I'm spending more time staring at settings than actually catching ghosts. So let's work through it together. Let's figure out the definitive way to play Luigi's Mansion in 2026. We'll start with the games themselves. Luigi's Mansion was originally released in 2001 in Japan and America, and 2002 for us plebs in Europe and the UK. It was a GameCube launch title, and it famously started as a tech demo to show off the graphical capabilities of the GameCube, which is why the game focuses so heavily on shadows and lighting. Then we have the 3DS remake, which launched in 2018, even though the Switch was already out, which seemed like a bit of a strange decision from Nintendo. It wasn't just a port of the original game though, it added updated character models, co-op, a new control scheme, an achievement list, and even a boss rush mode. As for the emulators, Dolphin has been around since the dawn of time, it seems. Released all the way back in 2003, it's had decades of development to the point where it's an almost flawless piece of software, especially for GameCube games where motion controls aren't an issue. It's pretty rock solid. I've been using it since the beginning, so I know this emulator like the back of my hand. I mean, my YouTube channel is full of Dolphin tutorials, so if you get stuck on anything Dolphin emulator related, you're in the right place. Azarha, on the other hand, is the new kid on the block. It's an emulator birthed out of the unfortunate closure of Citra, collateral damage when Nintendo went on the warpath against Switch emulators, which is a topic for a whole other video. It's still very much early access in the grand scheme of things. The developers are still tweaking a few features, and it's prone to some stuttering due to the nature of shader compilation. In my testing, it's been barely noticeable so far, but in a head-to-head on stability, Dolphin takes the early lead. So let's fire these bad boys up and see what we're working with. On the left, I've got the GameCube version running in Dolphin, and on the right, the 3DS remake in Azarha. Both are running at their native resolutions, so around 480p for the GameCube and a tiny 240p for the 3DS. They're also both locked at 30 FPS because the game's logic is tied to the frame rate. Anything higher and the physics start to go a bit crazy. Both look great for a game that is over 20 years old, but if we zoom in, those jagged pixels are everywhere. So let's clean them up. Starting with Dolphin, we're jumping into the graphics tab and bumping that internal resolution to 4K. Already, this is a massive leap. I'm also adding 4x SSAA. I tried it in 8x, but for some reason, it just chugged on my system. Then I'm adding 16x anisotropic filtering, and just look at how beautiful it looks now. Now for Azarha, we head into the emulation tab, hit configure, and crank the internal resolution all the way up to 10x, which is the 3DS equivalent of 4K. This one is the real shocker. Look at the before and the afters here. It goes from a blurry handheld mess to looking like it could have released on the Switch. Next, we're going to add some 4K textures. I'm not going to bore you with the how-to. I've got videos on my channel for that, and I'll link everything in the description down below. Drop a like while you're down there too. It really does help this channel grow. Here is the GameCube version without Henriko Magnifico's 4K textures, and here it is with them switched on. Honestly, I'm a little bit torn here too. The textures are incredibly high quality, but I've got to ask, do we lose the charm of the original art style when we sharpen everything to this degree? I'd love to hear your take on that in the comments. As for the 3DS version, the 4K texture pack is a bit more subtle. It mainly just cleans up the UI and some environmental assets, but it definitely makes the whole package feel a bit more premium. And now everything is clean and smooth, it's time to take a look at the graphics, and this is where the headache really starts. Because the 3DS remake has updated character models that match Dark Moon and Luigi's Mansion 3, Luigi is way more expressive and the ghosts look a lot cleaner. But the original GameCube version just oozes in atmosphere. Because it was originally a tech demo for lighting, the shadows in the GameCube version are dynamic. Luigi's flashlight actually casts his own shadow on the wall behind him, and the ghosts are a lot more transparent. Transparent or translucent, I don't know which one it is, but you get what I mean. All of this just adds to the brilliant, spooky atmosphere of the game. The 3DS version, however, most of the lighting is actually baked in to save on handheld performance, and it looks a lot flatter. So what do you think? What do you value more, the technical perfection and the better models of the remake, or the moody, high contrast lighting of the original? I honestly can't decide on this one. Visuals are one thing, but if the game feels like a chore to play, it doesn't matter how many 4K textures we throw at it. This is where the 3DS version starts to actually fight back. One thing I vividly remember about the original Luigi's Mansion is that the controls were a bit finicky, whether that was on purpose with Luigi being a bit more clumsier than Mario. I don't really know, but catching ghosts while trying to remember to keep your light turned off was always a bit of a panic. You're wrestling with the C-stick, trying to aim the vacuum while Luigi's sliding around. It is kind of iconic, but after playing Luigi's Mansion 2 and Luigi's Mansion 3, it's definitely something that hits a bit differently these days. The 2018 remake, however, feels a lot better to control. It adds the Strobulb light feature from Dark Moon, so instead of just toggling the beam, you charge up a flash that stuns everything, and it actually makes hunting ghosts a lot more approachable. It's kind of like if the old PlayStation 2 GTA games added a modern aiming system. Another advantage that the 3DS version has is the motion controls, and because I'm using a PlayStation 5 controller, Azarha allows me to use the motion controls for aiming. It's super easy to set up and it feels incredibly natural. It's a lot better using the motion controls with a controller than it is slinging my 3DS around the room trying to catch ghosts. In the training mission, I can clear the room in the 3DS version without breaking a sweat, but on the GameCube version, I'm still fumbling with the sticks like it's 2001. So if you want that modern, smooth gameplay experience, the 3DS version on Azarha is almost impossible to beat. It's the difference between fighting the controls and actually fighting the ghosts. Again, I think this one is probably going to be down to personal preference for you. Maybe you actually really enjoy the controls of the original, or you see that as part of the package. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And then there's just a couple of extra stuff, the icing on the cake. The 3DS remake takes advantage of the second screen. Having the map and your Game Boy horror stats visible at all times is a massive quality of life improvement. You aren't constantly pausing the game to see which room you're in. But Dolphin has a bit of an ace up its sleeve, co-op. Because I really wanted to show my girlfriend this game, but Azarha's multiplayer is, well, it's not exactly plug and play right now. Despite the game having co-op, setting it up on the emulator isn't easy. Dolphin, on the other hand, has a working co-op mod. It's really simple to set up. I'll leave a link in the description down below to where you can find it. And once it's running, it is a total game changer. So after all of that, where do I land? Which version of Luigi's Mansion am I actually going to play? Let's take a look at the board. And it's a closer fight than I actually expected. Dolphin is the ultimate way to preserve the soul of the original game. You get the superior dynamic lighting, the eerie atmosphere, and a rock-solid emulator that never misses a beat. With Henriko's 4K textures and a widescreen hack, it looks like a high-budget remaster. If you're a purist who wants the spookiest version possible, or you want to play through the mansion with a friend via co-op, Dolphin is obviously the winner. The 3DS remake is simply the better game to play. The Strobulb light, the improved character models, and the motion controls make the actual act of catching ghosts feel modern and satisfying. Even with the occasional shader stutter, seeing this game cleaned up at 10 times resolution on a big screen is fantastic. If you find the original GameCube controls too clunky for 2026, then this is the game for you. Honestly, I'm still a bit of a mess. Part of me just wants that 2001 atmosphere I grew up with to transport me back to my bedroom and those 6 agonizing months of only having one game to play. But the other part of me, it just wants to use the strobe light and not fight the C-stick. For this playthrough, I think I'm going to stick with Dolphin. I need that nostalgia hit. But we'll see how long I last with the controls, and maybe I'll just switch to the 3DS version anyway. As for which one is the better of the two, I will let you decide. I've left a poll in the community tab. Go and vote and let me know. Also, if this video helped you out or settled your own emulation headache, drop a sub, hit the like button. All the packs and codes that I've used will be linked in the description down below, just to save you some time, and I'll see you in the mansion.